Hello everyone, it's Lacey from the Hooked on Owls podcast. We're doing something a little bit different today. I had gotten the ChiaoGoo Red Lace needles a little while back, and I promised a bit of a video on how I liked them. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to go over the ChiaoGoo Red Lace needles. I'm going to show them in action so you can see a little bit about what I mean when I talk about them, about how they work up and things like that. And I'm also going to do a couple comparison needles. Okay, so to start off, we're going to go over this pair of 9-inch circular Clover needles, which are bamboo needles, size 2.25 millimeter or US 1. Here's what the paper with them looks like. With them, I am knitting a pair of socks for Leo. Let's see if we can get that to focus. There we go. Here. I'm making his out of some opal yarn. So these are the 9-inch circular Clover needles, bamboo. Real short tip, as you can see, which I know some people don't like. Really, these, in my opinion, are going to be kind of a personal preference. There are some that have like a longer needle, metal needles, things like that. Some people just don't even like the 9-inch circular because it can be a bit fiddly, in all honesty. So I personally really enjoy a 9-inch circular. The bamboo with these is nice for this size, in my opinion. It is has a little bit more of a grip to it. And when you're working on something this small, things do tend to kind of slide off the tip here. So to have that little bit of a grip is quite a good thing, in my opinion. So the convenience of being able to just go around and around with these without having to stop like you do with the magic loop method, it's really nice. It makes it very, very stress-free, mindless knitting. It's just, I really like them. I don't mind the fact that the tips are short. It really doesn't bother me. I'm pretty much a fingertip knitter anyway. Everything stays nice and consistent. You don't have to worry about a laddering. I mean, you do have to put a marker for the beginning of your round, or if you're doing a pattern, you know, markers where your pattern is indicated. Unlike with the magic loop, you know where your end is because you always have either the loop hanging out of one side. So you really don't have to use a marker for those. With these you do, which is fine because you can add a cute little charm. I have no problem with doing that. And I think they go a lot faster. Even though they are a little smaller, you know, you just kind of have to get your hands adjusted to it and how to hold them and use them. Make sure you take breaks so that you're not cramping up your fingers. But as long as you're not gripping them real hard, it's honestly, it's hard to look at the camera and you're knitting at the same time. It's really weird knitting through a camera. If you haven't ever tried it, give it a shot. It's kind of strange. It's just, I really do enjoy these. This is something I consider a fun, easy knit, and the only downfall with them, in my opinion, is the toe of a sock. It's great for the heel. It's great for basically every other part of making a sock. But when you get to the toe, unfortunately, you do have to either switch to a DPN or a magic loop, which, if you've watched my podcast before, you know I'm not a fan of the DPN. You probably won't see a review on those or any discussion about them unless absolutely necessary or requested. So I always do a magic loop, and thankfully I do now also have a magic loop in this size, and I can do it. But that's really, in my opinion, for me at least, the only downfall. Like I said, I know some people, you know, use their whole hand to knit. But some people will put the needle down along their hand. And like I said, I'm just a fingertip knitter anyway for majority of it, so that doesn't bother me at all. With the Clovers, you'll notice they do actually have a bit of a curve here with this metal. The joins are all really lovely. And this cord here is nice and stiff. So with with the 9-inch circular, it's kind of really what you want. There's no snagging issues. Everything slides really beautiful on this pair, and I would definitely recommend them to anybody looking for a good pair of 9-inch circulars. The ends aren't exactly sharp, which I know some people have a preference on, but when you use, at least for me, when I'm using a 9-inch circular, I actually kind of tend to move my yarn around and stuff a lot by pushing down on it with this, so having a duller end really isn't such a bad thing. It makes it easier just to kind of push it and keep going around, and it moves everything when you do it. So I think they're convenient. They're pretty much one of my favorite ways to knit socks. I won't lie. I'll probably do majority of them in this. I may even get a second pair so I can do both socks at the same time, because second sock syndrome is a real thing. For anybody who's made socks, you probably know what I'm talking about. So again, that is the Clover 9-inch circular. Again, this is a size US 1, 2.25 millimeter bamboo. So next I'm going to stick with the smaller circulars, and we're going to move on to the Hiya Hiya Sharps. This is a 16-inch circular, US size 3, 3.25 millimeter. And they are stainless steel. It does say that they are smooth as silk, flexible cables, and perfect joins. Well, let's discuss. I am using for this project really old stash. I think I was given this one. It's been in my yarn collection forever. It is a Deborah Norville Serenity Garden yarn. It's, I believe, a size 2. Yep, size 2 fingering yarn. Really soft, really silky soft. And I am making, this is going to be a barley hat for one of my boys. Okay, so Hiya Hiya Sharps 16-inch circulars. These are honestly probably one of my absolute things to knit with, or knit a project on rather. It's a size 3, so I do tend to look for projects that call for a 16-inch size 3 needle, because I absolutely adore these needles so much. They are nice and sharp pointed, and again, I do push with these ones as well, like the Clovers, but I've got country girl / mom hands, so they can take a bit of a poke, which sounds really weird, but it's true. These ones are a fixed needle. It says flexible needle, but we'll get into my thoughts on Hiya Hiya Sharp needles. With a circular, again, I don't think you really want a flexible needle, because you're going to kind of want it to hold out and around like that, so that it makes it easier for the project to slide. The joint on these is beautiful. It slides real nice. There's no catching. It's, let me see if I can get you a good shot of it here. It's a really, really nice joint on here. So let me go ahead and show you these a little bit in action. I am doing ribbing for the barley hat, and the only reason I'm showing you the ribbing and not just a nice, smooth, easy part is because unfortunately, you do have to go up a needle size when you are making the actual body of the hat and not the brim. And unfortunately, I do not have the next size in, let me get back on camera. I don't have the next size in the circulars, so that's why I'm unfortunately showing you ribbing, which is a bit tedious. But with this yarn being so silky, the only real downfall here is gonna be if you're not careful, your stitches will slide right off, because it is basically like rubbing butter between your fingers, which, let's face it, we've probably all done at least once, even if it wasn't on purpose. But these things literally are just absolutely gorgeous to work with. Now, if you are judging my knitting style right now, that's okay. I've only been knitting since, what did I say, like September, August, something like that. I'm sure my technique is quite lacking yet at this point. I do sometimes switch between my first finger and my middle finger, especially for when I'm purling. But you know what? It gets the job done. That's all that really matters, right? So yeah, the sharp points on this yarn actually is made up with a bunch of tiny little fibers, and it splits really easy. And then even though these needles are the sharp points, it almost, in my opinion, makes it a little bit better because your precision of getting in that spot is a little more on point. And I actually don't split the yarn as much with these as I would with the dull bamboo. That takes up a little bit more of a surface area, trying to get it under my needles there. Trying to knit through the camera again instead of looking around it, but gotta make sure I'm on screen. So yeah, again, these are the Hiya Hiya Sharp 16-inch circulars, US size 3. Absolutely beautiful, and probably one of my all-time favorite things to knit on. I'm definitely looking for more projects to make with them. So expect to see a lot of hats on future podcasts. Okay, we'll go ahead and put this away and we'll move on to the next set of needles. So we're going to jump right over to the next pair of Hiya Hiya Sharps I have for tonight. This is a 40-inch Hiya Hiya Sharp set and a US size 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter, also stainless steel. Smooth as silk, yes. Flexible cables, we'll discuss. Perfect joins, I still do like the joins on these. This is a pair of socks I'm making for my daughter in the Regia. So here is the pair of socks I'm making for Abigail. Now, you can see I'm already having these fun issues. This pattern is just a vanilla toe-up sock motition recipe. And if anybody hasn't used Nathan Taylor's sock motition recipe, it's pretty fantastic. You can pretty much make a sock for anybody out of any yarn with any needles just by his formula. So this is what I'm working with on this needle. Again, these are for my daughter. Now, when I had bought these Hiya Hiyas with the 40-inch, I had intended on doing a 2 at a time sock. These things drive me absolutely bonkers. I know Taylor had suggested on one of her videos putting them in some hot water, so it's honestly probably what I will be doing in the very near future before I work on them again to see if it helps. But let me kind of show you what the issue is. Now with the magic loop method, what you're basically doing is you're pulling this one needle out and you're leaving a loop back here. Now, with these needles, they're actually not too bad right now, thankfully. You do have the risk of the laddering, and with them being so, I'm not sure what the word is I want to use here. They're stiff. I guess we're going to go with stiff. And when they're packaged, they're all wrapped up. And they kind of stay in that position, which pulls the yarn and everything back and down away from the project you're working on. And a lot of times, after you get going a couple rounds, your needles will end up kind of like this, or you'll have all sorts of wonkiness going on like that you kind of have to, see, now it's going to get stuck like that because I messed with it. Almost had it perfect for a minute. You have to contend with to get it to go back into shape, and now it's going to, okay, good enough. It's kind of a pain. I'm going to have to lean around so I can actually see what I'm doing with this one, but You got to make sure with the magic loop you're getting it close enough to the edge there to pull it a little tighter. You're going to end up with a fun little laddering on the side, which is kind of one of the issues with the magic loop method, and I believe with the DPNs too. But me and DPNs, we don't get along well enough for me to even know how a laddering effect would look on a sock, because they are almost as obnoxious, if not more, probably more obnoxious than the magic loop with these crazy cords that get all tangled up. Let me do a couple. Oh, I must have been tired or stressed when I knit this last row because it's tight. But let me try and do a couple repeats here, a couple rounds, just to show you the difficulties that can be had with the cord on here. Now again, like I said, Taylor from the Wool Needles Hands podcast. Oh shoot, there's a drop stitch right there, hold on. I must have been asleep when I was doing this last round. What do we got here? Okay, there we go. Now, like I said, Taylor from the Wool Needles Hands podcast had suggested soaking them, so I'm definitely going to try that because I do absolutely adore these needles themselves. The size is a little bit bigger, and seeing as how I plan on making socks for all the kids, I don't mind using a bit of a bigger needle because I don't want them to take forever, and I know the kids are probably going to outgrow them in not too long of a time frame. So spending a whole bunch of time trying to get a nice tight gauge is really kind of, pointless. So flip that around. This is the joy of having to do a magic loop, which I love the idea of, because really you get to use the same needle for your entire project when you use the magic loop. You get to use it for your toe, for your heel, for your cuff, for the sock, for the ankle, everything. You use the same set of needles, which is, I mean, it's the best part, right? Not having to switch everything around. Man, it's really annoying, I won't lie. What really bothers me is when it gets twisted up in the front here and it ends up popping up and around and gets all twisted. Like I said, it's actually behaving pretty well today. And that's probably because I've left it out of the packaging for a little bit. But it still kind of pops up and gets in the way. It's not the worst thing in the world. But when you're doing a long project or a project you really want to enjoy, it's just kind of tedious having to slide it back and forth and having the cables all up in your way. I don't know. Maybe that's just my personal preference, but again, this is, an opinion video on different kinds of needles. So you may have a different opinion than me, and that's completely fine. I don't blame you. I think, different strokes for different folks, as they say. But again, I really do enjoy a Hiya Hiya needle. I do really enjoy a metal needle. I like the way they slide because I am a bit of a tight knitter. So when you use like a bamboo or any other kind of wooden needles, if it's not super polished, it can be a little sticky, especially with certain kinds of yarn. Let me see how my sides are looking here too. Let's see what we got. Yeah, not too bad. I've been trying real hard to keep the tension pretty even. Let me check this other one. Pull this side through. Pull this side down. I am hoping that by doing the hot water soak, I can get these out, because I would really like to attempt a 2 at a time on them. Check that side. That's going to be annoying. Yeah, it looks pretty good too. You can see a little bit down here. A bit of a ladder, but not too bad. Especially once you block them, it shouldn't be too bad. But So yeah, there's just a little bit on the Hiya Hiya Sharp 40-inch stainless steel needle. And that's probably enough of that one. Let's go ahead and move on because they're driving me a little crazy. Maybe I'm just picky. But again, my opinion. Thought I'd share. So Hiya Hiya Sharp, 40-inch circular, US size 1.5. And there's that. Next, we're going to go over the Knitter's Pride Dreamz needles. And this is a big project, so bear with me here. These are a wooden needle. But you can already tell how I feel about these. Let me untangle my project here. Give me just a second. These are Knitter's Pride. I want to say they're beech wood, but I'll have to look it up and I'll pop something on bottom if I'm incorrect, but if not, I'm going to say they're beech wood. They do have this black cord, which is extremely thick. It's pretty dang stiff too. I'll probably end up soaking these, which it wasn't bad when I was doing the body of the sweater, which if anybody's wondering, this is my flax sweater that I'm still in the process of making. I decided to keep going if you watched my last episode. This is Lion Brand Woolies yarn, which this is an acrylic wool blend, which I find with needles like these, using something like an acrylic really is my preferred for these bigger needles. They do slide pretty good. They are very well polished, as you can see the shine on them. The join down here is quite nice. It does taper in fairly well. It does tend to stick a little bit right here. You can hear it. But this one isn't even the problem in my opinion. It's this one here. Right here where the wood and the metal meet. It tends to occasionally get a little bit stuck. Not too awful that I can't handle it, but once in a while I do have an issue with it there, more so than here even. So right now I am working on the sleeve of my flax. Yes, I know there's a whole first sweater, don't judge me. This, again, with the magic loop, if I had a pair of 16-inch circulars or 12-inch circulars, I can't remember what size it calls for, but if I had a pair of circulars, I would definitely use them. I originally thought that buying all like 40-inch or 32-inch to do magic loop with everything was a great idea, and it still is in theory, in my opinion. As long as you can manage the ends and learn how to pull them tightly enough to the point where you don't get a laddering, then they're quite nice. For the pure fact, like I said, again, you only need, one of every size then. You can do everything with it if you know how to magic loop pretty much. I use this on the sleeves. I can use it on the body. It's not the right size, but I could use it on the collar and everything too if I felt like it. Again, this one's not specifically the right size, but for the collar, but it is for this, obviously. They are a bit stickier. The points on them are actually quite nice. They're just pointy enough, but not super sharp. It does stick, which you kind of constantly have to move things along. At least I do, because like I said, I am a bit of a tight knitter, which is probably why I prefer metal needles. They're not awful. I don't hate them, but I think they work better for certain projects more than others. They're definitely not my preferred. And some people might really love them, but they do just feel a little tacky, sticky to me, and it can be quite irritating. I do just like to have a nice slide, where as you can see just by doing this, look at the the yarn. Now I'm sure a lot of you are going to say it's just because I knit tight, but back to this. If I can get, let me get in there. Hold this yarn. Look at that. Look at the way that's smooth. It's so fast and smooth compared to, you can almost hear it. You can hear it rubbing on there. See if I can get you to see how it kind of catches right here. Watch. I'm not going to do it that time. And I got to wiggle it. Which, again, is minor in the grand scheme of things. But when you're knitting a large project like this with it, it can tend to start to wear on your nerves a bit. Especially like me, if you're like me, like I have 5 kids and crazy loud animals, and when I want to knit and crochet in my free time when they're all in bed, I'm normally quite tired and I just want to unwind and enjoy a project that I'm working on. I'm going to turn it. So again, it's sticking as I'm trying to move this needle through a bit. The cords on this are very similar to the Hiya Hiya Sharps. They're just black instead of light blue. Now I did talk to somebody who said her Hiya Hiya Sharps did swivel down here at this point, which I actually have a pair of ChiaoGoos, and they're a bamboo. And this part down here swivels, which makes this a little less irritating when it's getting all twisted. When you really start to get going, sometimes it does get twisted and you have to sit there and figure out which way you gotta turn your needle. See, like that? You gotta turn your needle back to get it back in position. I'm sure if you kind of are going slow and taking your time, it's a little less irritating, but even just pulling through, you can see how that popped up. And then this one doesn't want to go down, so I have to pull that through a little bit more. And then it just kind of bows up and around. And even if I twist it the other way, that helped a little bit. And see, sometimes you have to just sit there and twist it to get it to go where you want it to, so it's not up on your hand or in your way. And I can't see through the camera. There we go. So these definitely have their downfalls, at least for me. You may really be the kind of person who is a super loose knitter, so you really enjoy that stickiness of a wooden needle. If so, then you might like these, but again, I guess if you're a loose knitter, that little join there might not catch as much as it does for me. I'm sure it's possible that, you know, even using a different yarn for these may help. You know, different yarns knit up different with different needles, at least in my experience from what I've played around with so far. I'm just going to finish this row real quick. Okay. So yep, again with the magic loop method, you're left every row, or every side of a row you do, you're left having to turn your work and slide one needle in and slide the other needle out. So it does take a little bit extra time, unlike with the circulars where you can just go around and round and round. I mean, you still get your knitting done, but it is a little bit more time consuming and it can be a little irritating for some. Again, this is the Knitter's Pride Dreamz. Size 8, 40-inch circulars. Okay, last but definitely not least, I saved these for last because, well, you'll see. These are the ChiaoGoo Premium Stainless Steel Red Lace Cabled Needles. It doesn't say on here, but these are a US size 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter. And I think these are a 32-inch cable. Now, you can see already the difference in the cables for these. They're sitting right off nice to the side. I could probably do 2 at a time on here for a smaller pair of socks easily, I would imagine. This yarn, I can't find the ball band for, but it is, I want to say it's called like on light, something along them lines. Just a sock yarn I got from one of my local yarn shops, and I absolutely love the colors. I did show the tag in my last episode, which I believe was episode 8, if you're curious, in the works in progress section. So, but here are, let me pull a needle out here. Here are the, you can see a pretty good definition of that cable. Can you see those little tiny wires inside, how they're all connected almost like a strand of yarn? And then it's coated in this red coating, which really reminds me, I think I previously said this in the last time I talked about them. It reminds me of kind of the coating that goes over a bike chain. They're beautiful. I could just sit here and stare at them all day. But the join on these, there's no catch. It's a quick little up. I'm sure it's more for the larger sizes. Yeah, there's like no catch. My finger just slides, and so does my yarn. Look how my yarn just slides right through there. It's absolutely smooth and glorious. The last one is always a little tight because with the magic loop you do have to pull the ends a little tight to prevent from laddering down the side. I don't know how well I've done on this pair. Actually, it looks pretty good. So the trick with that is really just to kind of press your ends together, and then it slides through pretty quick. But let me show you how these things work. I ordered them off of Amazon, and the price was really quite reasonable. But you see, as I pull through, look how nicely that just automatically lines up. There's no twisting, no craziness flipping around. It just goes where I put it. And this part does the same. I can twist it if I want to, but really it's just going to go out and around by itself. That's where it goes. Out of the way. Beautiful. It's, in my opinion, a lot more flexible and malleable than the other ones. It just stays where you want it to. So let me go ahead and show you how these work. These are a rather sharp point, fairly similar to a Hiya Hiya Sharp. They are a nice metal needle, very lightweight. Really, they're extremely lightweight. They almost feel lighter than the 9-inch bamboo ones I showed previously, the Clover ones. But they work really well. Nice, good point on them. Not too sharp, but sharp enough that you don't have to worry about the size. The taper on them is it's just perfect in my opinion. I can definitely see why everybody raves about these, and I'm definitely glad I listened and I picked up a pair, because you can see me knitting right now and you don't see cords flopping all around, getting in my way, driving me absolutely bonkers. It's quite nice. I'll go ahead and finish up this row real quick, and we'll pull through and show you again how well it works. So, you know, with the other ones, I'm actually holding them with my hand on here, so it is quite comfortable. With the other pair, I almost can't because that cord is twisted all up and in the way, whereas this pair, see if I can open it up and show you, it just sits right here so nice and smooth. It's so compact. It's not flipping all around and like I'm trying to like stay out of the way of it like you do with the other ones. I can just hold this whole thing because it's so pliable. That's the word I've been looking for this whole time. These are very pliable. And I'm sure it has something to do with the composition of the metal interior. Okay, so we're at the end of this row, and I'm going to show you I can just drop that one and it goes bloop right down. Slide that through, and this right here makes magic loop. Just being able to pull it like that makes magic loop so much more enjoyable in my opinion. Again, I'm stuck on the end, so just push them a little closer together. And again, that's just because I try to keep my ends tight to avoid laddering. So that doesn't bother me because I know that it's for a good reason. But because these cables, it does pull back a little bit just because it's, you know, gonna roll down, it's stocking that. So I'm starting the next row. I can hold this a lot closer, a lot easier, and it's gonna naturally pull closer to my stitch because it is more pliable and bends a lot easier to where you need it to be. So in all honesty, I probably don't have to pull quite as tight on that first stitch as I do, but I'm so used to it with all the other ones that it's just kind of become a force of habit. I can probably honestly relax my stitches a little bit, but I just absolutely love the way that these slide off so easy. I almost don't even have to help them move things along. It almost just kind of does it itself. So yep, again, with this side as well, the cord just fits real nicely along my hand. So I do kind of hold it, like I said, down here on the bottom of my hands with these, but I'm able to because the cords are so beautiful that they just kind of go where I want them to be without bugging me. I absolutely adore these ChiaoGoo Red Lace needles. I would definitely invest in a pair if knitting is something that you really enjoy doing. I'm probably going to end up getting a 40-inch pair if I can find them. When I ordered these ones online, they only had 32, but I absolutely adore them, and I would definitely recommend using them for a magic loop method just because the way the cord is composed, it's absolutely a joy to do a magic loop with these and not at all a hindrance like it is with the other cables of the other needles. Again, I may, like I said, try to do the softening method of them in hopes that that helps. But as for now, if knitting is your thing and you want to spend more time, enjoyable time, and you want to do the magic loop method, I definitely recommend getting yourself a pair of these red lace needles. They're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. ChiaoGoo Red Lace. Beautiful. So that's all I've got for you today as far as discussing some needles. We went over the 5 sets of needles. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below or send me a message. If you like this video and you would like me to continue doing more videos like this, please also, hit like and let me know that this is something you enjoy watching, getting a little more information on, and I will try to continue doing these as well for you along with the regular podcasts. If you have any suggestions for other videos you might like to see, again, leave me a comment. Let me know what you would like to see as far as content for videos other than the actual podcast itself. Again, this video is just my opinions based on needles I have used, and hopefully some of my opinions and information I've provided you with tonight will help get you a pair of needles that's right for you. And of course, remember to subscribe if you liked seeing content along these lines, as well as the podcast. If you hit the little bell notification button, you will make sure to never miss an episode or an upload of informational videos such as this. Thank you so much for watching. Happy hooking, happy knitting, and happy crafting, guys. I'll talk to you later. Dropping stitches. Okay, fix this. It's gonna be a long video if I keep doing things like this. Okay, I found my yarn here. Oh, I'm stuck. untangle this for the video. Make it a little bit easier. Around and around. Around she goes. Okay. Bim, 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 bim.